The morning sun cast long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard of Buckingham Palace as Queen Camilla prepared for her scheduled departure to Scotland. The royal entourage bustled with activity, servants loading luggage into gleaming black vehicles while security personnel conducted their routine checks. What should have been a simple royal visit was about to become one of the most extraordinary discoveries in recent royal history. Captain James Morrison, head of the Royal Protection Unit, watched as the Queen's personal trunk was carried toward the waiting convoy. Something about the way the two footmen struggled with its weight caught his attention. He had overseen countless royal departures, and this particular trunk seemed unusually heavy for what should contain only clothing and personal items for a 3-day visit. The trunk itself was magnificent, crafted from rich mahogany with brass corners and the royal cipher embossed in gold. It had belonged to the royal family for generations, passed down through decades of service. Queen Camilla had specifically requested this particular piece for her journey, claiming it held sentimental value from her early days as a working royal. As protocol demanded, Captain Morrison approached the loading area to conduct his final security sweep. His trained eye noticed several irregularities that set off internal alarms. The trunk's brass hinges showed signs of recent tampering, with tiny scratches around the lock mechanism that suggested it had been opened and closed multiple times in recent days. More concerning was the way it sat in the vehicle, the suspension visibly compressed under its weight. Lady Patricia Ashworth, the Queen's private secretary, hovered nearby with obvious anxiety. She clutched her leather portfolio against her chest, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of nervousness. When Captain Morrison asked about the trunk's contents, she provided only vague responses about personal effects and items of sentimental value. Her evasive answers only heightened his suspicions. The security protocols for royal travel were strict and non-negotiable. Every piece of luggage underwent thorough inspection, regardless of its owner's status. Captain Morrison had served the royal family for 15 years, earning their trust through his unwavering dedication to their safety. He understood the delicate balance between security and privacy, but something about this situation felt fundamentally wrong. Queen Camilla emerged from the palace, resplendent in a navy wool coat and matching hat. Her smile was warm as always, but Captain Morrison detected a tension in her movements, a slight hesitation as her gaze fell upon the trunk. She exchanged a meaningful glance with Lady Ashworth, a silent communication that spoke of shared secrets and mutual concern. The Queen approached Captain Morrison with her characteristic grace. She inquired about the security arrangements for the journey, her voice steady but lacking its usual warmth. When he mentioned the need to inspect the trunk, her composure wavered momentarily. She suggested that the inspection could wait until their arrival in Scotland, citing time constraints and the informal nature of the visit. Captain Morrison found himself in an impossible position. His duty was clear, but challenging the Queen directly required both courage and diplomatic skill. He explained that recent intelligence reports had heightened security concerns, making thorough inspections mandatory for all royal travel. The Queen's expression tightened, but she maintained her regal bearing. The confrontation drew attention from other members of the royal household. Senior staff members gathered at a respectful distance, sensing the unusual tension in what should have been a routine departure. Whispered conversations began among the servants, their eyes darting between the Queen and the security chief. Lady Ashworth stepped forward, attempting to mediate the situation. She suggested that the inspection could be conducted privately, away from the curious eyes of the household staff. Her proposal revealed her desperation to maintain some level of discretion, whatever the trunk might contain. Captain Morrison's military training had taught him to trust his instincts, and every fiber of his being screamed that something was amiss. The weight of the trunk, the nervous behavior of the Queen's staff, and the obvious reluctance to allow inspection all pointed to a significant problem. His responsibility to protect the royal family extended beyond physical threats to include protecting them from scandal and embarrassment. The standoff continued for several tense minutes. Other security personnel watched their captain carefully, ready to support whatever decision he made. The Queen's protection was their primary concern, but they also understood the chain of command and the protocols that governed their actions. Queen Camilla finally spoke, her voice carrying the authority of decades of royal experience. She acknowledged Captain Morrison's concerns and expressed appreciation for his dedication to duty. However, she also made it clear that she expected her wishes to be respected, particularly regarding personal items of a sensitive nature. The captain realized he had reached a crucial decision point. His career, his reputation, and his relationship with the royal family all hung in the balance. Yet his fundamental duty remained unchanged, to protect the Queen, even if that meant protecting her from herself. Drawing upon his diplomatic training, Captain Morrison proposed a compromise. He would conduct the inspection personally, with only Lady Ashworth present as a witness. The examination would be thorough but discreet, maintaining the Queen's privacy while ensuring security protocols were followed. The Queen considered this proposal for what felt like an eternity. Her eyes searched Captain Morrison's face, looking for any sign of judgment or ulterior motive. Finding only professional concern and genuine respect, she slowly nodded her agreement. As the arrangements were made for the private inspection, tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. The other staff members were dismissed and the courtyard gradually emptied until only the essential personnel remained. The trunk was carefully moved to a secure room within the palace, away from prying eyes and curious observers. Captain Morrison's hands trembled slightly as he approached the ornate lock mechanism. Years of training had prepared him for many scenarios, but nothing had quite prepared him for this moment. The weight of responsibility pressed down upon him as he inserted the key, knowing that whatever lay inside would change everything. The lock clicked open with a soft, almost musical sound that seemed to echo in the silent room. Queen Camilla stood motionless, her face a mask of resignation and determination. Lady Ashworth clutched her portfolio even tighter, her knuckles white with tension. As Captain Morrison lifted the heavy lid, golden light seemed to spill from within the trunk, reflecting off surfaces that caught and scattered brilliance throughout the room. The sight that greeted him was so unexpected, so magnificent, that for a moment he forgot to breathe. The discovery would soon send shockwaves through the royal household and beyond. Captain Morrison stared into the trunk, his trained composure shattered by the impossible sight before him. Nestled within layers of midnight blue velvet lay the most magnificent collection of diamonds he had ever seen. But these were not just any diamonds. The distinctive cuts, the incredible size, and the familiar settings could mean only one thing. These were the legendary Coronation diamonds, pieces that had been missing from the crown jewels for over 18 months. The centerpiece of the collection was unmistakable. The sovereign's scepter cross containing the magnificent Cullinan white diamond lay carefully wrapped in silk. Beside it, the imperial state crown's most precious stones caught the light, their absence from the official crown having been carefully concealed from the public. The St. Edward's crown sapphires gleamed alongside diamonds that had once adorned the crowns of kings and queens for centuries. Queen Camilla's sharp intake of breath broke the stunned silence. Her face had gone pale, but her eyes held a complex mixture of relief and apprehension. Lady Ashworth moved closer to the trunk, her professional mask finally slipping to reveal genuine amazement. Even she, who had served the royal household for decades, had never seen such a concentration of royal treasures outside the Tower of London. Captain Morrison's mind raced through the implications of this discovery. The missing Coronation diamonds had been the subject of intense secret investigation for months. Their disappearance had been carefully hidden from the public to avoid embarrassment to the crown and prevent potential security breaches. Scotland Yard's finest detectives had worked tirelessly, following leads that ultimately led nowhere. The official story had been that the stones were undergoing routine maintenance and inspection at an undisclosed location. This explanation satisfied the media and public, but within the royal household, panic had reigned. The diamonds represented not just monetary value beyond calculation, but centuries of royal heritage and tradition. Queen Camilla stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She began to explain the extraordinary circumstances that had led to this moment. 3 weeks earlier, she had received an anonymous message delivered through her private secretary's office. The message claimed knowledge of the diamonds' location and promised their safe return under specific conditions. The anonymous contact had demanded a private meeting with the Queen herself, refusing to deal with security services or intermediaries. The message contained details about the diamonds that only someone with intimate knowledge of their characteristics could possess. Most convincing was a photograph showing one of the smaller stones alongside a current newspaper, proving the sender's claims were genuine. Against all protocol and security advice, Queen Camilla had agreed to the meeting. Her decision was driven by desperation and the knowledge that traditional investigative methods had failed completely. The pressure to recover the diamonds had grown intense, with the approaching state visit of a foreign monarch requiring their presence for ceremonial purposes. The meeting had taken place in a small cafe in Kensington, chosen by the mysterious contact for its anonymity and public nature. Queen Camilla had arrived disguised in simple clothing, accompanied only by Lady Ashworth and a single protection officer positioned at a distance. The contact turned out to be an elderly woman named Margaret Thornton, whose connection to the diamonds would prove both shocking and heartbreaking. Margaret Thornton was the widow of Henry Thornton, a former master jeweler who had worked for the royal household for over 40 years. Henry had been responsible for the routine maintenance and cleaning of the crown jewels, a position that required absolute trust and discretion. His sudden death from a heart attack 18 months earlier had coincided exactly with the disappearance of the diamonds. Through tears and trembling words, Margaret revealed the truth that had tormented her since her husband's death. Henry had discovered a serious flaw in the security systems protecting the crown jewels. Rather than report it immediately, he had removed several key pieces to demonstrate the vulnerability. His intention was to present the diamonds alongside a detailed report of the security weaknesses, ensuring immediate action would be taken. However, Henry's sudden death had left Margaret in possession of the diamonds with no clear way to return them. She lived in terror of being accused of theft, knowing that no one would believe her husband's noble intentions. The stress of harboring such a secret had consumed her life, destroying her health and peace of mind. Margaret's story revealed the tragic irony of the situation. Henry Thornton had been trying to protect the crown jewels, but his death had created the very security breach he had hoped to prevent. His widow had spent months paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, desperately seeking a way to return the diamonds without destroying her husband's reputation or facing criminal charges. Queen Camilla listened to Margaret's story with growing compassion and understanding. She recognized the impossible position the elderly woman faced and the genuine desire to do the right thing. The Queen's decision to personally retrieve the diamonds reflected both her practical need to recover them and her human empathy for Margaret's situation. The recovery operation had been planned in absolute secrecy. Queen Camilla met Margaret at a predetermined location, where the diamonds were transferred in the very trunk that Captain Morrison had just opened. The Queen had intended to return the diamonds quietly to their proper place, hoping to spare Margaret any legal consequences while preserving Henry's reputation. However, Queen Camilla's plan had been complicated by the timing of her scheduled trip to Scotland. She could not delay the journey without raising suspicions, nor could she risk leaving the diamonds unguarded in London. Her decision to transport them personally seemed the safest option, though it violated numerous security protocols. Lady Ashworth's role in the operation had been crucial, but reluctant. Her loyalty to the Queen compelled her cooperation, but her professional training made her acutely aware of the risks involved. She had spent sleepless nights worrying about the potential consequences if the diamonds were discovered during transport. Captain Morrison absorbed this incredible story, his respect for Queen Camilla's compassion warring with his concern about the security breaches involved. The situation presented challenges far beyond his training or experience. The diamonds were safe, but their recovery had been achieved through methods that contradicted every protocol he was sworn to uphold. The revelation of the diamonds' whereabouts also raised difficult questions about Henry Thornton's actions and Margaret's months of silence. While their motivations were understandable, the security implications were serious. The incident exposed weaknesses in the crown jewels' protection that required immediate attention. As Captain Morrison carefully examined each piece, documenting their condition and confirming their authenticity, he realized that this discovery marked the beginning rather than the end of a complex situation. The diamonds were recovered, but the circumstances of their disappearance and return would require careful handling to prevent scandal and maintain public confidence in royal security. The secure room fell silent as Captain Morrison completed his initial assessment of the diamonds. Each piece was accounted for, pristine and undamaged despite their months away from the Tower of London. The relief on Queen Camilla's face was palpable, but Captain Morrison knew that recovering the diamonds was only the first step in addressing this unprecedented situation. The immediate challenge was determining the proper course of action. Protocol demanded that he report the discovery to his superiors, but the circumstances were so extraordinary that normal procedures seemed inadequate. The Queen's personal involvement in the recovery operation complicated matters significantly, raising questions about authority, discretion, and the delicate balance between security and royal privilege. Captain Morrison requested permission to contact Sir Edmund Hartwell, the keeper of the privy purse, whose position made him responsible for the crown jewels' security and administration. Queen Camilla agreed reluctantly, understanding that the situation had grown beyond her ability to manage quietly. Lady Ashworth immediately began preparing a detailed account of events, knowing that accurate documentation would be crucial. Sir Edmund arrived within 30 minutes, his usual composed demeanor showing signs of strain. He had been intimately involved in the secret investigation of the diamond's disappearance and had endured months of pressure from government officials demanding answers. His first reaction upon seeing the recovered treasures was profound relief, followed quickly by concern about the implications of their discovery. The 4 individuals gathered around the trunk represented the inner circle of royal administration and security. Their discussion would determine how this sensitive situation was handled and what consequences might follow. Queen Camilla took the lead, presenting Margaret Thornton's story with compassion while acknowledging the serious security concerns involved. Sir Edmund listened carefully, asking pointed questions about the timeline of events and the verification of Margaret's claims. His experience in royal administration had taught him to consider all angles, including the possibility of deception or manipulation. However, the evidence strongly supported Margaret's account, and Queen Camilla's personal assessment carried significant weight. The group faced several critical decisions. The diamonds needed to be returned to the Tower of London immediately, but their absence during the investigation had been covered by the maintenance story. Their sudden reappearance would require careful explanation to avoid contradicting previous statements. Any inconsistency could trigger media speculation and public questions about royal security. Captain Morrison raised concerns about Margaret Thornton's legal position. While her intentions appeared genuine, she had technically been in possession of stolen property for 18 months. The decision about whether to pursue charges would involve complex considerations of justice, compassion, and public interest. The royal family's reputation could be affected regardless of the final decision. Sir Edmund suggested consulting with the Attorney General's office to explore options for handling Margaret's situation. Legal precedents existed for cases involving good faith possession of stolen property, particularly when the possessor made efforts to return the items. Margaret's advanced age and her husband's loyal service to the crown could be mitigating factors. The discussion then turned to Henry Thornton's actions and the security vulnerabilities he had discovered. His death had prevented him from reporting the weaknesses properly, but his removal of the diamonds had proven his point dramatically. The security review he had intended to provide was now more urgent than ever, requiring immediate attention from specialists. Queen Camilla expressed her desire to meet with Margaret Thornton again, both to provide reassurance about her legal situation and to learn more about her husband's discoveries. The Queen felt personally responsible for the elderly woman's welfare, having promised during their initial meeting that cooperation would not result in punishment. Captain Morrison requested permission to conduct a comprehensive security assessment of the entire crown jewels collection. The incident had revealed potential weaknesses that could extend beyond the specific vulnerability Henry Thornton had discovered. Modern security technology and procedures needed evaluation against evolving threats. Lady Ashworth raised practical concerns about the immediate transport of the diamonds back to the Tower of London. The original plan to carry them to Scotland was clearly inappropriate, but moving them during daylight hours posed its own risks. She suggested waiting until evening and using unmarked vehicles with minimal escort to avoid drawing attention. Sir Edmund agreed with the discreet transport plan, but insisted on involving Scotland Yard's Specialist Protection Unit Their expertise in handling high-value items would ensure proper security while maintaining the necessary secrecy. He would personally coordinate with the Tower of London authorities to receive the diamonds without fanfare. The group also discussed the need for a comprehensive review of protocols governing the crown jewels, maintenance and inspection. Henry Thornton's position had granted him extraordinary access, but his death had revealed gaps in oversight and communication. Future procedures needed to prevent similar situations while maintaining the trust essential for such sensitive work. Queen Camilla's Scotland trip required immediate attention as well. Her absence from the planned departure would raise questions that could indirectly compromise the diamond recovery operation. Sir Edmund suggested proceeding with the trip, but delaying it by several hours to allow for the secure transport of the diamonds. The conversation gradually shifted to longer-term implications and lessons learned. The incident had highlighted the human element in security, showing how personal circumstances could create vulnerabilities that technology and procedures could not address. Henry Thornton's loyalty to the crown had motivated his actions, but his isolation after discovering the security flaw had led to poor decision-making. Captain Morrison emphasized the need for clear protocols addressing situations where security personnel discover vulnerabilities. Direct reporting channels and immediate response procedures could prevent future incidents where individuals feel compelled to take unauthorized actions. Trust and communication were as important as physical security measures. Sir Edmund acknowledged that the incident would require a confidential report to senior government officials, including the Prime Minister's office. The recovery of the diamonds was a success, but the circumstances raised questions about royal security that needed addressing at the highest levels. The report would need to balance transparency with the need to protect sensitive security information. The meeting concluded with specific assignments for each participant. Sir Edmund would coordinate the diamond's return and begin legal consultations regarding Margaret Thornton. Captain Morrison would initiate the comprehensive security review and develop new protocols. Lady Ashworth would manage the logistics of the Scotland trip and maintain communication with all parties. Queen Camilla's final words emphasized her commitment to ensuring Margaret Thornton's protection and her determination to honor Henry Thornton's memory appropriately. The incident had revealed both the dedication of royal servants and the complexities of maintaining security in a modern monarchy. The lessons learned would strengthen future protection measures while preserving the human values that made the monarchy meaningful. As the group prepared to implement their decisions, the weight of responsibility settled upon each of them. The successful recovery of the Coronation diamonds was only the beginning of a process that would test their wisdom, discretion, and commitment to serving the crown while upholding justice and compassion. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across London as the carefully orchestrated plan to return the Coronation diamonds began to unfold. Sir Edmund Hartwell had spent hours coordinating with various security agencies, ensuring that the operation would proceed without attracting unwanted attention. The weight of 18 months of investigation and worry was finally beginning to lift, but new challenges emerged with each passing hour. Margaret Thornton sat in her modest flat in Kensington, unaware that the diamonds she had harbored for so long were now safely in royal hands. The elderly woman had spent the morning tending to her small garden, trying to maintain the routine that had kept her sane during the most difficult period of her life. Her telephone remained silent, but she jumped at every unexpected sound, still haunted by months of anxiety and fear. Queen Camilla's concern for Margaret's well-being had prompted an unusual decision. Rather than leaving the matter to officials, the Queen insisted on personally ensuring that Margaret understood her protected status. Lady Ashworth was dispatched to arrange a discreet meeting, one that would provide both reassurance and closure for the grieving widow. At the Tower of London, Dr. Sarah Richardson, the deputy keeper of the crown jewels, received Sir Edmund's carefully worded message about an unexpected development requiring her immediate attention. Her 20 years of service had not prepared her for the extraordinary conversation that followed. The revelation that the missing diamonds were returning required delicate handling to maintain the fiction that they had never truly been lost. Captain Morrison coordinated with Scotland Yard's specialist unit, led by Inspector David Chen, a veteran of numerous high-value recovery operations. Chen's team had been briefed on the sensitive nature of the operation, but not its full details. Their professionalism and discretion were legendary, making them the ideal choice for this unprecedented situation. The transport plan called for 2 unmarked vehicles to leave Buckingham Palace at 15-minute intervals. The first would carry decoy packages, following the most obvious route to the Tower of London. The second, containing the actual diamonds, would take a circuitous path through London's quieter streets. Both vehicles would be monitored by aerial surveillance, though the operators remained unaware of the precious cargo. As evening approached, Lady Ashworth visited Margaret Thornton's flat. The elderly woman's surprise at seeing a royal representative quickly turned to anxiety, fearing that her cooperation had led to consequences she had been promised would not occur. Lady Ashworth's gentle manner and careful words gradually reassured Margaret that her situation was being handled with compassion and understanding. The conversation revealed additional details about Henry Thornton's final weeks that proved crucial to understanding the full scope of his discoveries. Margaret produced a small notebook her husband had kept, filled with technical observations about security systems and potential improvements. His handwriting showed increasing urgency in the days before his death, suggesting he had planned to present his findings imminently. Henry's notes revealed a systematic analysis of multiple security vulnerabilities, not just the specific weakness that had allowed him to remove the diamonds. His expertise and loyalty had driven him to conduct an unauthorized but thorough evaluation of the entire Crown Jewels protection system. The notebook represented a security assessment that would have taken official investigators months to complete. Margaret also revealed that Henry had attempted to schedule a meeting with his supervisor just days before his fatal heart attack. The appointment had been postponed due to scheduling conflicts, a delay that now seemed tragically significant. Had the meeting occurred, the diamonds might never have left the Tower of London, and Henry's concerns would have been addressed through proper channels. Meanwhile, at Buckingham Palace, Captain Morrison supervised the careful packaging of the diamonds for transport. Each piece was individually wrapped and secured in specially designed cases that would protect them from shock and tampering. The process was methodical and precise, with multiple witnesses documenting every step to ensure accountability. The first vehicle departed at precisely 6 o'clock, driven by an experienced protection officer with a passenger compartment that appeared to contain valuable cargo. Its route through central London's busy streets was designed to attract any potential surveillance, while providing multiple opportunities to detect hostile interest. Radio communications maintained the fiction that this vehicle carried the primary cargo. 15 minutes later, the second vehicle left through a different exit, its ordinary appearance concealing the extraordinary treasure within. Captain Morrison personally accompanied this vehicle, his presence ensuring continuous security oversight. The driver, Sergeant Michael Barnes, had transported royal valuables before but remained unaware of the specific nature of this assignment. The circuitous route to the Tower of London took them through residential areas and quiet industrial districts, avoiding the main thoroughfares where surveillance was most likely. The journey proceeded without incident, though Captain Morrison remained alert for any signs of interest from other vehicles or pedestrians. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily upon him as he guarded centuries of royal heritage. At the Tower of London, Dr. Richardson had prepared for the diamond's arrival with characteristic efficiency. The secure storage areas were checked and double-checked, with additional security personnel discreetly positioned throughout the complex. Her staff had been told only that important items were being returned ahead of schedule, maintaining operational security while ensuring proper preparation. Inspector Chen's surveillance team reported normal conditions throughout the transport operation. No suspicious activity was detected, and both vehicles reached their destinations without incident. The decoy operation concluded successfully at a secure government facility, where the empty packages were ceremoniously logged and stored. The actual arrival at the Tower of London occurred just as the last tourists were leaving for the day. The timing was perfect, providing maximum security with minimum visibility. Dr. Richardson personally oversaw the unloading process, her excitement carefully contained as she verified each recovered piece against detailed inventories. The reunion of the diamonds with their proper home was an emotional moment for all present. Dr. Richardson's expertise allowed her to immediately confirm the authenticity and condition of each piece. Months of carefully concealed worry finally gave way to relief as she observed that the diamonds had suffered no damage during their unplanned absence. Captain Morrison's detailed report of the recovery operation would become a classified document, its contents known only to the highest levels of royal and government administration. The successful conclusion of the transport phase represented a significant achievement, but many questions remained about the broader implications of the incident. The evening concluded with secure communications between all participants, confirming the successful completion of their respective responsibilities. Queen Camilla received word that the diamonds were safely restored while she prepared for her delayed departure to Scotland. The trip would proceed as planned, though the Queen's thoughts remained focused on the extraordinary events of the day. Margaret Thornton spent her first peaceful evening in 18 months, finally free from the burden of secret knowledge that had consumed her life. Lady Ashworth's visit had provided the reassurance she desperately needed, along with promises that her husband's memory would be honored appropriately. The notebook containing Henry's security observations had been gratefully received, its contents destined to improve protection measures for future generations. As London settled into evening quiet, the successful recovery of the Coronation diamonds marked the end of one of the most unusual security incidents in royal history. However, the broader implications of Henry Thornton's discoveries and the need for comprehensive security reforms were just beginning to be understood. The real work of ensuring such incidents never occurred again was yet to come. 3 days after the dramatic recovery of the Coronation diamonds, Queen Camilla returned from Scotland to find Buckingham Palace buzzing with discreet activity. Sir Edmund Hartwell had used her absence to implement the first phase of security reforms based on Henry Thornton's notebook. The deceased jeweler's observations had proven even more valuable than initially realized, revealing systemic weaknesses that had gone unnoticed for years. The Queen's first meeting upon her return was with Attorney General Victoria Blackwood, whose legal analysis of Margaret Thornton's situation had arrived that morning. The confidential brief outlined several options for handling the case, each with distinct advantages and potential complications. The decision would establish important precedents for how similar situations might be handled in the future. Margaret Thornton had spent the weekend in relative peace, but questions about her legal status continued to weigh heavily on her mind. Despite Lady Ashworth's reassurances, she understood that possessing the crown jewels for 18 months, regardless of circumstances, constituted a serious matter under British law. Her solicitor, recommended by Lady Ashworth, had prepared her for various possible outcomes. The Attorney General's analysis focused on the legal doctrine of honest possession, which applied when someone held property believing they had legitimate reasons for doing so. Margaret's case was complicated by the length of time involved and the extraordinary value of the items, but her efforts to return the diamonds demonstrated good faith. The recommendation was for a carefully worded caution rather than criminal prosecution. Captain Morrison had spent the weekend reviewing security footage from the Tower of London, searching for evidence of Henry Thornton's unauthorized access to the diamonds. The investigation revealed a pattern of after-hours visits that had gone unnoticed at the time. Henry's keycard access and trusted status had allowed him to work undisturbed, highlighting gaps in monitoring procedures. The technical analysis of Henry's notebook continued to yield disturbing discoveries. His observations documented vulnerabilities in electronic systems, physical barriers, and human procedures that collectively created significant risks. Most concerning was his conclusion that coordinated attacks exploiting multiple weaknesses could succeed despite the tower's formidable reputation for security. Dr. Sarah Richardson found herself at the center of the most comprehensive security review in the Tower of London's modern history. External consultants had been brought in to conduct independent assessments, their findings largely confirming Henry Thornton's amateur but accurate observations. The respect for his expertise grew as professionals verified his conclusions using sophisticated testing methods. The broader implications of the incident extended beyond physical security to questions of personnel management and psychological support. Henry Thornton's isolation after discovering serious problems had contributed to his decision to take unauthorized action. New protocols were being developed, to ensure that staff members with concerns could report them immediately through protected channels. Queen Camilla's personal interest in Margaret Thornton's welfare had surprised many royal officials, but it reflected her understanding of the human cost of the incident. The Queen had authorized Lady Ashworth to provide whatever support Margaret needed, including counseling services and financial assistance if required. This compassionate response was generating positive discussion within royal circles. The delayed Scotland trip had proceeded successfully, with no one outside the inner circle suspecting the dramatic events that had preceded it. Queen Camilla's performance during the visit had been flawless, concealing the stress and uncertainty she had experienced. Her ability to compartmentalize personal concerns while fulfilling public duties demonstrated the professionalism expected of modern royalty. Media attention remained focused on routine royal activities, with no awareness of the Coronation diamond's temporary disappearance and recovery. The official maintenance story continued to provide cover for the ongoing security improvements, though careful coordination was required to ensure consistency across all public statements. Inspector David Chen submitted his report on the transport operation, praising the professionalism of all involved, while noting lessons learned for future high-value transfers. His recommendations included enhanced communications protocols and additional contingency planning for unusual circumstances. The successful operation had demonstrated the effectiveness of careful planning and interagency cooperation. The Prime Minister's office received a classified briefing on the incident. Though specific details were limited to protect operational security, government officials expressed satisfaction with the recovery, while emphasizing the need for comprehensive security reforms. The incident had highlighted the interconnected nature of national security and royal protection responsibilities. Legal proceedings regarding Margaret Thornton's case were scheduled for the following week, though the Attorney General's recommendation suggested a resolution that would avoid public attention. The Queen had privately expressed her hope that Margaret could move forward without the burden of criminal consequences, recognizing the extraordinary circumstances that had created the situation. Henry Thornton's legacy was being carefully reconsidered in light of his security discoveries. While his methods had been unauthorized and potentially dangerous, his motivations and expertise were gaining appreciation. Plans were being developed to honor his memory while implementing the improvements he had identified as necessary. The recovered diamonds underwent extensive technical examination to ensure they had suffered no damage during their absence. Dr. Richardson's detailed analysis confirmed their perfect condition, though new security measures would be implemented before they were returned to active ceremonial use. The incident had demonstrated both the vulnerability and resilience of these priceless artifacts. Captain Morrison found his role evolving as he took on broader responsibilities for royal security assessment. His handling of the trunk discovery had earned respect throughout the security community, and his insights were being sought for the comprehensive reforms under development. The incident had accelerated his career while teaching valuable lessons about balancing protocol with practical judgment. The secure storage of Henry Thornton's notebook had become a priority, given its sensitive contents and potential value to hostile actors. The information it contained about royal security measures required careful protection, while being used to implement necessary improvements. Balance was needed between learning from his discoveries and preventing their misuse. Staff morale at the Tower of London had initially suffered from the revelation of security weaknesses, but Dr. Richardson's leadership was helping restore confidence. Open discussions about improvements and investments in new technology demonstrated management's commitment to addressing identified problems. Henry Thornton's posthumous contributions were being recognized as valuable rather than embarrassing. The international implications of the incident were being carefully managed, with Allied security services being briefed on lessons learned without revealing sensitive details. Royal security had global dimensions, and improvements to British procedures could benefit protection efforts worldwide. The incident had demonstrated the importance of information sharing and best practice development. Queen Camilla's Scotland visit had included private discussions with security officials about implementing similar reforms for royal residences throughout the United Kingdom. The incident had shown that vulnerabilities could exist anywhere within the royal protection system, requiring comprehensive rather than localized improvements. As the week concluded, All participants in the recovery operation could take satisfaction in the successful resolution of an unprecedented crisis. The Coronation diamonds were secure, Margaret Thornton's situation was being handled compassionately, and comprehensive security improvements were underway. However, the true test of success would be preventing similar incidents through the reforms that Henry Thornton's sacrifice had made possible. 1 month after the dramatic discovery in Queen Camilla's trunk, the full scope of changes triggered by the incident had begun to transform royal security operations. The comprehensive review of crown jewels protection had expanded into a broader examination of royal asset security, with implications reaching far beyond the Tower of London. Margaret Thornton stood in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, an unprecedented honor arranged by Queen Camilla herself. The elderly woman had accepted the Queen's invitation for a private meeting, bringing with her additional materials from her husband's papers that had been discovered during a thorough search of their home. These documents would prove to contain even more significant revelations about royal security vulnerabilities. The Attorney General's decision regarding Margaret's case had been announced the previous week. In recognition of her cooperation and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding her possession of the diamonds, she would receive only a formal caution. The decision had been carefully crafted to balance legal requirements with compassionate consideration of her situation and her husband's loyal service to the crown. Henry Thornton's notebook had been extensively analyzed by security experts from multiple agencies, revealing a depth of understanding that impressed even veteran professionals. His observations extended beyond the crown jewels to include assessments of royal residence security, transportation protocols, and communication systems. The breadth of his analysis suggested months of careful observation and documentation. Queen Camilla's meeting with Margaret took place in the private apartments, away from the formal reception rooms typically used for official business. The Queen's personal approach to this sensitive situation had generated considerable discussion within royal circles, with many praising her compassionate leadership, while others questioned the precedent being established. The conversation between the two women was emotional and healing for both parties. Margaret finally had the opportunity to share the full story of her husband's final weeks, including his growing anxiety about the security issues he had discovered. Queen Camilla listened with genuine interest and sympathy, understanding the human cost of the incident that had consumed so many lives. Margaret revealed that Henry had attempted multiple times to arrange meetings with his supervisors, but had been consistently postponed due to scheduling conflicts and administrative delays. His frustration had grown as he observed ongoing vulnerabilities that he believed posed serious risks to the crown jewels. The timing of his heart attack had prevented him from presenting his findings through proper channels. The additional documents Margaret brought contained detailed diagrams and technical specifications that demonstrated Henry's thorough approach to security analysis. His engineering background had enabled him to identify weaknesses that might have escaped notice from security professionals focused on different aspects of protection. The materials would prove invaluable for ongoing improvement efforts. Captain Morrison had been promoted to Assistant Director of Royal Protection Services, a recognition of his handling of the crisis and his contributions to the subsequent security review. His new position gave him authority to implement many of the reforms suggested by Henry Thornton's analysis, along with additional improvements identified by the professional review teams. The security upgrades at the Tower of London were nearing completion, incorporating both traditional improvements and cutting-edge technology. New monitoring systems provided comprehensive coverage of all access points, while enhanced communication protocols ensured that concerns could be reported and addressed immediately. The investment represented the largest security enhancement in the Tower's modern history. Dr. Sarah Richardson had emerged as a key figure in the modernization efforts, her deep knowledge of both the crown jewels and historical precedents making her invaluable for balancing security improvements with preservation requirements. Her leadership had helped staff embrace changes that initially seemed overwhelming, demonstrating that enhanced security could coexist with traditional procedures. The international security community had taken notice of the incident and subsequent reforms. Though specific details remained classified, several allied nations had requested briefings on lessons learned, recognizing that similar vulnerabilities might exist in their own systems for protecting national treasures. The British experience was contributing to global improvements in heritage. Security. Queen Camilla's decision to personally oversee Margaret Thornton's situation had established new protocols for handling similar cases in the future. A formal procedure was being developed for situations where loyal staff members discover security issues, ensuring that their concerns would be addressed promptly and appropriately without requiring unauthorized actions. The crown jewels themselves had undergone the most comprehensive examination in their modern history, with each piece individually assessed for condition and authenticity. The process had revealed minor issues unrelated to their temporary absence, leading to enhanced maintenance procedures that would better preserve these irreplaceable artifacts for future generations. Media interest in royal security had increased following several high-profile incidents at other institutions, but the successful concealment of the Coronation Diamonds incident demonstrated the effectiveness of careful information management. Public confidence in royal protection remained high, even as significant improvements were being implemented behind the scenes. The psychological support services that had been recommended following Henry Thornton's case were being expanded throughout the royal household. Staff members now had access to confidential counseling and reporting mechanisms that would prevent the isolation and stress that had contributed to the original incident. The human dimension of security was receiving unprecedented attention. Margaret Thornton's legal situation had been resolved, but Queen Camilla continued to ensure her welfare through discreet support services. The elderly woman had expressed interest in establishing a scholarship fund in her husband's memory, focusing on technical education for young people interested in heritage preservation. The Queen had enthusiastically endorsed this proposal. The broader implications of the incident extended to parliamentary discussions about national heritage protection. Though MPs remained unaware of the specific details, increased funding for security at historical sites was being considered, partly influenced by the lessons learned from the Crown Jewels Review. The incident had indirectly contributed to broader policy discussions about protecting Britain's cultural treasures. Inspector David Chen had been recognized for his role in the transport operation, receiving commendation for his team's professionalism and discretion. The successful recovery mission had become a case study for high-value asset protection, though the specific details remained highly classified. His expertise was being sought for training programs at multiple agencies. The technical innovations implemented as a result of Henry Thornton's discoveries were being evaluated for application to other royal properties and government facilities. His insights into system vulnerabilities had proven applicable beyond their original context, potentially improving security for critical infrastructure throughout the United Kingdom. Sir Edmund Hartwell had overseen the entire reform process with characteristic efficiency, coordinating between multiple agencies and departments while maintaining the secrecy essential for operational security. His management of the crisis and subsequent improvements had earned recognition from the highest levels of government, cementing his reputation as one of the most capable administrators in royal service. The Coronation Diamonds were scheduled to return to active ceremonial use for an upcoming state visit, their first public appearance since the incident. Extensive security rehearsals were being conducted to ensure that all new procedures worked seamlessly while maintaining the dignity and tradition associated with these historic occasions. As autumn approached, the transformation of royal security operations continued to evolve, driven by lessons learned from an incident that had tested everyone involved. The successful resolution had demonstrated the importance of human judgment, compassionate leadership, and the willingness to learn from unexpected sources. Henry Thornton's legacy lived on through improvements that would protect royal treasures for generations to come. 6 months had passed since Captain Morrison's discovery in Queen Camilla's trunk, and the anniversary was being marked not with public celebration, but with quiet reflection on the profound changes that had resulted from that extraordinary day. The Coronation Diamonds gleamed once again in their rightful places, but their temporary absence had transformed royal security in ways that would endure for generations. The state visit of the Japanese emperor had provided the first major test of the new security protocols. The crown jewels had performed their ceremonial role flawlessly, their presence adding dignity and tradition to the proceedings, while being protected by the most advanced security systems in their history. The successful event had validated months of careful planning and system integration, Margaret Thornton had found new purpose in her life through the scholarship fund established in her husband's memory. The Henry Thornton Technical Heritage Foundation had already awarded its first grants to promising young people pursuing careers in conservation and security technology. Queen Camilla had personally attended the foundation's launch, cementing the royal family's support for its mission. The elderly woman's transformation from frightened widow to confident advocate had been remarkable to witness. Her public speaking about the importance of heritage protection and the human elements of security had earned respect throughout the professional community. She had become an unexpected but powerful voice for the reforms that her husband's discoveries had inspired. Dr. Sarah Richardson had been appointed to a newly created position as Director of Royal Heritage Security, acknowledging her crucial role in implementing the comprehensive reforms. Her expertise bridged the gap between preservation and protection, ensuring that enhanced security
measures complemented rather than compromised.
The historical significance of royal treasures, the international recognition of Britain's security improvements, had led to consulting opportunities worldwide. Teams of British experts were advising foreign governments on protecting their own national treasures, spreading the benefits of Henry Thornton's insights far beyond their original context. The incident had inadvertently strengthened Britain's position as a leader in heritage protection technology. Captain Morrison, now Assistant Director of Royal Protection Services, had overseen the training of a new generation of security professionals educated in both traditional procedures and modern innovations. His experience with the trunk discovery had taught him the importance of trusting professional instincts while respecting the human complexities that could arise in any security situation. The comprehensive security review had extended beyond the crown jewels to encompass all aspects of royal protection. Residences, transportation, communications, and ceremonial procedures had all been enhanced based on lessons learned from Henry Thornton's analysis and the subsequent professional evaluations. The royal family was now protected by the most sophisticated security infrastructure in their history. Queen Camilla's leadership throughout the crisis had earned widespread admiration within government and security circles. Her decision to personally engage with Margaret Thornton had demonstrated a level of compassion and practical wisdom that strengthened public respect for the monarchy. The Queen's approach had established new standards for royal crisis management. The legal precedent established by Margaret Thornton's case had influenced discussions about cultural property law throughout the Commonwealth. Her situation had highlighted the need for clear procedures governing the discovery and reporting of lost heritage items, leading to legislative reforms in several countries. The case had contributed to international legal development in unexpected ways. Henry Thornton's posthumous recognition had grown as the full scope of his contributions became apparent. His portrait now hung in the Tower of London's staff areas, acknowledging his dedication to protecting the crown jewels even at personal cost. The memorial had been unveiled by Queen Camilla herself, honoring both his service and his sacrifice. The technical innovations inspired by Henry's notebook continued to evolve, with several patent applications being filed for security technologies developed during the reform process. The intellectual property generated from the crisis was being shared with allied nations, while generating revenue that supported further research and development in heritage protection. Sir Edmund Hartwell had been knighted in the New Year's honors. Recognition for his masterful handling of the crisis and subsequent reforms, his coordination of multiple agencies and departments while maintaining operational security had prevented what could have been a devastating scandal while achieving genuine improvements in royal protection. The psychological support services implemented throughout the royal household had proven their value in several subsequent situations where staff members had concerns about security or other sensitive matters. The culture of open communication and confidential reporting had prevented other potential incidents while improving overall staff morale and effectiveness. Inspector David Chen had been promoted to lead a new specialized unit focused on high-value asset protection. Drawing on expertise gained from the diamond transport operation, his team's work extended beyond royal protection to include support for museums, galleries, and other institutions safeguarding national treasures. The media had remained unaware of the specific details surrounding the Coronation diamonds, Though several journalists had noted improvements in royal security procedures, the successful information management had protected both operational effectiveness and royal dignity, while allowing the benefits of reform to be implemented without compromising ongoing protection efforts. Parliament's increased funding for heritage protection had resulted in security improvements at historic sites throughout Britain. The investment had been justified by general security concerns rather than the specific incident, but the reforms had been informed by lessons learned from the Crown Jewels Review. The benefits had spread far beyond their original scope. Educational institutions had begun incorporating the case study into their curricula, though anonymized versions that protected sensitive details. The incident had demonstrated important principles about security psychology, crisis management, and the balance between protocol and practical judgment. Future professionals would benefit from these lessons. The anniversary of the discovery passed quietly, marked only by a private gathering of those who had been directly involved. Queen Camilla hosted the meeting in the same room where the trunk had been opened, creating a moment of reflection on the journey they had shared and the achievements that had resulted from that difficult day. Margaret Thornton's speech at the anniversary gathering was particularly moving, as she thanked everyone who had helped transform her darkest period into something meaningful and positive. Her husband's memory lived on through improvements that made royal treasures safer while inspiring new generations of conservation professionals. As the group reflected on the 6 months since the discovery, the consensus was clear. The crisis had tested everyone involved, but had ultimately strengthened both royal security and the human relationships that supported it. Henry Thornton's legacy was secure, preserved not only in enhanced protection systems, but in the compassionate approach to leadership that the incident had inspired. The Coronation diamonds continued to serve their ceremonial role, their security enhanced but their majesty undiminished. They remained symbols of royal tradition and continuity, but they had also become reminders of the importance of vigilance, compassion, and the willingness to learn from unexpected sources. The trunk that had concealed them had revealed truths that would protect royal treasures for centuries to come. The final toast of the anniversary gathering was proposed by Queen Camilla herself, honoring not only Henry Thornton's memory, but all those who had worked to transform crisis into opportunity. The incident had ended, but its lessons would endure, ensuring that the crown jewels would continue to inspire wonder and respect, while being protected by the wisdom gained through trial and dedication.